Do high-intensity workouts bother your joints? Are you concerned about doing high-intensity workouts because of the effects they may have on your joints? Many people feel this way, but this does not have to be the case. In fact, higher-intensity workouts can improve the health and function of your joints, but you need to understand what you're doing and how you're going about doing it. On this week's episode of the Exercise is Health podcast, that's exactly what we're going to lay out for you. We're going to cue our introduction, and then we're going to dive right into this conversation. Hey, welcome back, exercisers, to the Exercise is Health podcast, brought to you by Exercise for Life Studios, where we believe that your health is your most valuable asset. And the single best thing that you can do to both boost and protect this asset is exercise. Specifically, exercise is geared towards building the health and function of your muscles. We are your hosts, Charlie
and Julie.
And today we are exploring this idea of high-intensity exercise and your joints. Look, so many people avoid high-intensity exercise altogether because of how they believe it's going to make their joints feel, but high intensity exercise does not have to make your joints feel lousy. There are some steps you can follow to ensure that's not the case for you, and that's exactly what we want to tell you about today. But before we do, we have a gift for you and we have an ask.
That's right. If you have been listening to the podcast, you've been enjoying our content, we would absolutely love it if you'd take a minute of your time and leave us a rating and review here on this podcasting platform. Little do you know, it is the number one thing that you can do to help us grow our platform, grow our message, and help more people exercise for their life and for their health. Second of all, we have opened up our membership completely for free for you to try out. I know a lot of people have listened to this podcast, they're liking the content, but they want to do it. They want to be with us in a workout. So we've made that available for you. So go ahead and go to www.exerciseforlifestudios.com and you can claim your 2-week free membership right there.
So Julie, I have a question for you.
Yes.
In your experience, have people ever told you, oh, my joints are really bugging me, so I know I need to work out really hard?
Never.
Right. It's normally the exact opposite, right?
Right.
They're like, okay, hey, my knee's really bugging me. I just need to take it easy. Or, my
Right.
shoulders are always achy. I need to make sure that I'm not working out as intense. And I totally get it, because most ways of working out will absolutely leave your joints feeling worse. But that doesn't have to be the case with all ways of doing higher intensity exercise. And we want to tell you about 3 ways today that higher intensity exercise can actually be joint friendly and actually improve the health and function of your joints.
What's so interesting is I entered into the exercise, helping people exercise world from the joint friendly side of things, which is really unique. A lot of people, they personally have exercised and gotten some success. So then they are like, let me help other people exercise and get some success. And then along the way, they learn oh, maybe I shouldn't do that because it's hurting everyone. Or maybe we should do this because it's not hurting anyone. So I feel like over time, I think maybe Charlie, this was you, but anyways, someone presented this idea to me that saying, hey, if you only do joint friendly exercise, that's great for your joints, but then you're missing out on all the metabolic and other health changes that come from intensity. Right? So when you think about joint friendly exercise, you probably think of what you might do at a physical therapy clinic, right? But then if I said, hey, do intense exercise, then a lot of people think sweat, intense, heart rate, and really challenging the muscles, which also has significant implications for your health, meaning when you squeeze your muscles really, really hard and they're really, really challenged, that's what creates a lot of the health changes in your body. But then there's this balance here. It's okay, well, if I exercise really hard and I get all these health benefits from squeezing my muscles really hard, then am I left with trashed joints? And that's the issue, right? That is the complete issue, is how are we going to exercise and say this is for your long-term health and say you need to do it intensely? By the way, we need to be respectful of your joints. So we actually we've put together 3 top tips that we have so that you can continue to exercise intensely, which we know you have to do to get many of the amazing changes that we get from exercise, but also not trash your joints. How do we preserve and save and actually make your joints feel better, healthier, more mobile in the process of also exercising really hard so that you can get the best of both worlds?
Absolutely. So let's dive in. The first thing that you need to understand about making sure your joints stay healthy is they need to move, okay? Motion is a huge health provider for your joints, all right? But too much motion can create some serious issues. So there's this balance here, right? And the balance is you want to use full range of motion, but make sure it's specific to your body And it's also specific to your symptoms. What we mean by that is it needs to be symptom-free. Use your symptom-free full range of motion while you're doing your higher intensity exercise. And not only will you get the health benefits for your joints of using that motion, the health benefits for the rest of your body of working higher intensity, but you will be far less likely to feel achy, beat up, sore, or injure yourself while you're exercising because you're making the range of motion specific to your body and you're doing it only in the areas that are symptom free.
You're right, Charlie. There is like that key critical piece of joint health where our joints have to move. And actually, like under the skin, the way that joints stay healthy is through movement. We have to move them to get fluid moving in our joints. And that's how they stay healthy. But the place where we are led astray often is that more motion is better. And all the motion is the best. Like if we can force more motion, that is the best. And here's the thing. What's important to realize is that your full range of motion during a workout is the most important thing. And I almost didn't put in the during your workout part, but then I added it because every day your range of motion is going to be a little different because our muscles change quickly. They change in minutes, in hours while you sleep. And so one day, if your squat is super deep and the next day it's not so deep because you're having symptoms or pain or zinging or crunchiness in your knees or whatever is going on, then it's important that we respect your full range of motion for that workout. And again, it's for that workout. A lot of times people are like, oh yes, I follow what Julie and Charlie say. I only compete with myself. So because when I was a baby, I squatted like a baby. Now that I'm 37, I'm going to continue to squat like a baby. No. You got to always respect where your body is at during each workout in that moment. So as you're defining your full range of motion, you're thinking, okay, as full as I can go, but it has to feel symptom-free, pain-free, stretch-free, tightness-free, zinging-free, crunchiness-free, funkiness-free. And the only symptoms, there's 2 symptoms you're allowed to feel. 1, muscle squeezing, so work, right? And sometimes people feel work feels uncomfortable or painful, but you guys know the difference. There's like a bad pain and a good, like, okay, there's a lot of muscle squeezing here. And then the second sensation you're allowed to feel is fatigue, right? Like muscles are getting tired. So it would first start with contraction, and then it would maybe hopefully end with a large amount of fatigue, but you're not having any of the other ones, especially the stretching one. A lot of people feel like it's okay if I feel stretchy, pulling, tugging like that when I'm exercising because that's the only way to get more quote unquote full range of motion or more motion. But we have found that the more that you respect your full range of motion, the more likely it is that your joints feel much stronger, functional, and better after you exercise.
Absolutely. Now, the second part is that you need to be strategic with your speed. A lot of times when it comes to HIIT workouts, higher intensity workouts, we think that's like a free pass to just move as fast as we want with every single exercise throughout the entire range of motion, just speed. Like that's the only possible way that we know to increase the intensity is just speed. Okay. If you've been following our content or a podcast for any period of time, you know that speed is one of the primary drivers of why people feel lousy after exercise and why people get injured with their workouts. So if we're talking about making sure your higher intensity workouts can be joint friendly, then we need to be strategic with our speed. This does not mean that you need to be moving at a snail's pace. In fact, depending on the exercise that you're doing, depending on the part of the range of motion that you're using, you may have a little bit greater opportunity to move faster through those parts of the motion while doing specific exercises. Okay. So it doesn't mean that we are just, inching along here, and it's calling it high intensity exercise. No, there can be a speed component that you are very strategic with, that you are very controlled with, but you need to be very smart about, and you're not just applying it across the board to every single exercise that you do.
That's right. So I like to think of it as the faster you go, the smaller the range of motion you should use. And the slower that you go, the larger of a range of motion you get to use. So if you guys have seen any of our videos, you'll notice that when we do our strength training, where we're trying to use our full range of motion or your full range of motion, we're going really slow because we're about to go to the very end of your range of motion where it's important that we're really, really controlled. It's the number one reason why people feel bad after they work out because they're going too fast and then they just blow through the end range of motion. And so if you're going to be doing full range of motion, your full range of motion, then you should really be mindful that you want to slow it down so that you're able to define your full range of motion. It's really hard to define full range of motion or your range of motion when you're moving fast. And then the faster that you move, let's say you do like a cardio bout, like jumping jacks or something, you want the motion to be smaller, okay? And that way you're not even getting close to the end range of motion. So you're way less likely to violate your range of motion of your body. So things like maybe jump rope. You're not really doing like a full jump squat and doing like all the way depth and all the way up, but you're doing a small motion with the goal of having your heart rate go up, but not smash your joints and smash your range of motion. So the most risky exercises are always going to be the ones with giant range of motion and giant speed, because that is the perfect recipe for going past your body's like motion limits. And that is a big issue for a lot of people, especially when you have joint issues.
Hey, Julie, it's a really great point that you bring up, is this idea that, hey, if you're doing resistance training, the idea of moving slowly definitely applies, especially if you are trying to use more of your full range of motion. The closer you're getting to your end ranges of motion, the slower you definitely need to go, okay? But when you start to do more cardio exercise, and especially if you're doing cardio exercise that, like you're saying, Julie, doesn't use a whole lot of motion, throughout your body, then that's a little bit more of okay, you're in the clear to move a little bit faster because the motion is so small throughout your joints. It's less likely that you're going to be going towards or to the end ranges of any of those motions or of any of those joints. And so the likelihood of injury is way, way less. So that's where the strategy really comes into play. Understanding like, okay, during my cardio, I can go faster and that's how I can push really hard. And during my resistance training, I'm going to go slower, but I'm still going to make it really challenging, which leads us into step number 3. You want to make sure that there's a high degree of challenge for your muscles while you're doing your resistance training. It's not a high degree of coordination. It's not lightweight, a lot of reps and just doing it, really fast. Okay. You're not doing cardio with weights. You're not doing dancing with weights. You are doing your really focused strategic resistance training, challenging your muscles, really trying to get them contract hard, really trying to get them to fatigue through that challenge component, not necessarily, again, trying to turn your resistance training into cardio. That is where you start to slow things down, because then you'll be using more of your range of motion, getting closer to your end ranges.
Yeah, I think this is a big misconception. It's like when I have joint issues, or I definitely don't want to create joint issues, I should definitely do light stuff. And I get it. The more that you do light stuff, you can do more stuff with no education, right? Like not knowing the parameters, but you're here on our podcast. We're giving you the parameters of how do you lift heavy or challenge your muscles and not have negative side effects with your joints. Now you might be thinking, Julie, but why should I lift heavy if I could just lift light and get the same results? Well, here's the thing. You don't get the same results. The best thing that you can do for your joints is to make sure the muscles that control your joints are working properly. There is one thing in your body that has active control over your joints and active support over your joints, and it's your muscles. And the more that you can, number one, make sure muscles are staying strong, but number two, get them conditioned, right? Like they can handle a lot of stuff, the better off your joints are going to be. Because for a lot of us, we don't really like to work out. Like we're not living life to make it to the next workout. Some people are like that, but most of us are not. We're living life so that when we go do the stairs, our knees doesn't give out. Or when we go and travel, we can, our hips are okay on the airplane for 10 hours or whatever it is that conditioning effect, which only comes from challenging the muscles, making it difficult. Is really what a lot of people are looking for. It's like when you come to a workout and you feel good, that's one thing. But when that workout makes it so that you feel good in your life and you're able to do the stuff you want to do in your life, then that's like next level. That's what we're really looking for. So keep that in mind when we're thinking about keeping your joints feeling good through your workouts, even when it's high intensity. I actually think we really we want you to do high intensity. That doesn't mean we want you like doing crazy stuff, but it's like we want that challenge, because the only way your muscles get stronger and more conditioned is by adding challenge. It's not like doing one rehab light exercise after the next light yoga exercise, after the next light floor stretch or whatever. It's not light stuff after light stuff after light stuff. If you're doing that, we're really glad that you're staying moving, you're staying consistent. But the biggest effect from your muscle system will become when they become stronger and more conditioned and more resilient. So when you go out in your life, you're able to handle more and more stuff.
Now, one thing that needs to be brought up is as the challenge increases, your focus needs to increase, and specifically your focus on squeezing your muscles. Okay, a lot of times as the challenge increases and we start to feel our muscles working harder and we start to feel ourselves fatiguing, there's this lure to distract ourselves from what we're feeling and what we're experiencing, and that's really when your rate of injury can go through the roof. Okay, when your risk of hurting yourself can exponentially increase when you start distracting yourself by not focusing on your muscles, by not focusing what's happening within your body when you're doing these higher challenging exercises. Okay, it doesn't mean that you should avoid doing the challenge. Like Julie's saying, the challenge is how your body changes, okay? But with that also comes a responsibility of making sure that you're really focusing on what's going on within your body, really focused on the muscle squeeze. Not only will that decrease your risk for injury, it'll also decrease your risk for soreness, your risk for feeling lousy during or after you're working out, because you're going to be so much more in tune with what's going on within your body. And so that's how you can take this challenge piece, really start to ramp it up, but make sure that your joints stay healthy and then that the rest of your body stays healthy as well. Because when it comes to getting results from your workouts, it really boils down to three things. Number one, challenging your muscles. Number two, recovering from that challenge. And number three, repeating that challenge. And so often what we see is when people go heavy on number one, with I'm really going to challenge myself doing these high intensity workouts, they don't set themselves up to recover and they don't set themselves up to repeat the challenge, which means ultimately the results that they can get from their workouts goes way, way down. However, by strategically challenging your body in an intense manner, in a highly intense manner, but doing so in a way that you can recover from and that you can repeat, not only can you get better results from your workouts, but you can make sure that your workouts are promoting the health of your joints and keeping your joints healthy in the process.
Charlie, I think we need to like bring that back, where it's like what did you say? Challenge makes change. What?
Oh
yeah.
The challenge is how your body changes. Something like that.
Yeah.
So
change. Challenge is how you make how your body will change, and I think that's so key because. Charlie and I live in this weird world where we're like saying, hey, you should challenge your body. And you should also feel good in the process, which you never hear. It's almost like the rest of the gym world is saying, like, we just accept that you're going to feel terrible after your workouts. And that is something that we're unwilling to accept. So we do know you need to challenge your body. We also know that you need to set up parameters so that you're respecting your body in the process so that you leave feeling better, stronger. Yes, that you've worked, but not that you are limping or you need a week to recover or a month to recover. We all know those times where we've done something in our life or a workout that like knocks us out for a long time. And a lot of people be like, oh, sweet. Like, you must have really smashed your workout. It's awesome. But that is not okay in our world. We want to see that you can challenge your body, you can recover quickly by how you challenge your body, and you can repeat it. Because if we can get you to exercise regularly on repeat, like 4 more times a week, then we know that you are going to get more significant health changes for your brain, your metabolism, your muscle, your bone, your joint health, all of the things that change when you exercise, we know happens when you repeat it. Mm-hmm. And when we can repeat an appropriate challenge that you can recover from and repeat, the better that your workouts will become.
Absolutely. So if you're hearing this, you're thinking, okay, well, this all sounds great in theory, but how in the world do I put this into practice without actually hurting myself? That's exactly what we're going to be leading you through during our upcoming One Workout Away Challenge, which kicks off on October 22nd. Now, this One Workout Away Challenge is themed Joint Health HIT because it's all going to be high intensity workouts that are built around helping your joints stay and be healthier. All right. So if this idea of making sure that you're not wearing out your joints is intriguing to you and you're still wanting to make sure that you're able to challenge yourself at a high intensity, you want to learn like the in-depth tactics of how you go about doing that, that's exactly what we're going to be leading you through during this one workout away challenge. So all you have to do to join us for it is go to www.exerciseforlifestudios.com/OWA. Registration does close at midnight on October 22nd. So if the clock strikes midnight and it's Sunday, October 22nd, you're not going to be able to register any longer. Okay. So go there now, www.exerciseforlifestudios.com/OWA, and get signed up. The link for that will be in the description for this video and in the show notes for this podcast. So just scroll down, you'll find it there, and you'll be able to register. So who do you know that needs to hear this episode? Who do you know that avoids doing higher intensity workouts because of how it makes their joints feel? Share this episode with them so they can understand the 3 steps that need to be in place in order for higher intensity workouts to not only keep their joints safe, but actually help them be healthier. And while you're online, head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating and review. It helps people find our podcast when they're looking for information on exercise and they're looking for information on health. So if you found value in this conversation today, let us know by leaving us that 5-star rating and review. Well, thanks so much for tuning in. We always appreciate it. Have a fantastic week, and we'll talk with you all next week. This podcast is for information purposes only. The statements and views on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Julie and Charlie Gates, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse effects from the use of information contained herein. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about guest qualifications or credibility. This podcast may contain paid endorsements or advertisements for products or services. Individuals on this podcast may have a direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein. If you think you have a medical issue, consult a licensed physician.